Hello, everyone. This is Dorie Clark, and we're here with our weekly Newsweek interview show, Better, where we talk to fascinating entrepreneurs, executives, authors, and more about their strategies that can help all of us improve the quality of our lives. And this week's guest is Gil Winch. He is the author of a book called Winning with Underdogs. He may look familiar to you because this is a first for Better. We previously, earlier this summer, had his wonderful identical twin, Guy Winch, on the show. So if you haven't seen that, please go back into the archives on my YouTube channel or Newsweek's YouTube channel. You can check out that great conversation talking about emotional first aid and how to get over heartbreak, which are Guy's topics. But today, we're going to be talking with Gil about creative hiring strategies. Gil Winch, it's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And for those of you who are tuning in from around the world, please type into the chat box and let us know who you are and where you are dialing in from. We are eager to say hello, and we're eager for your questions for Gil Winch. So Gil, just getting right down to it here, you have a new book. It's called Winning with Underdogs. I love your subtitle for it as well. It's Winning with Underdogs, How Hiring the Least Likely Candidates Can Spark Creativity, Improve Service, and Boost Profits for Your Business. It's a heady claim, but I'm sure you can back it up. In 2008, you started a business. It's called CY, and it initially served to employ the underemployed, including people with disabilities. And you've been doing this now for 15 plus years. Tell us more about your business and your vision for bringing people into the workforce who may not have had those opportunities previously.
Well, about 20 years ago, it started about then. I heard someone just mention to me in passing that people with disabilities, specifically people with severe disabilities, are pretty much out of work globally. And it just made sense to me because they have severe disabilities. But when I thought about it just a bit and it sort of stuck with me, I realized that it just isn't clear. There's a mystery here, because why are people sitting in a wheelchair out of a job? I mean, they can function as well as everybody else. And 80% of the people who are legally blind have enough sight to function. 30% of the people with disabilities are emotionally disabled, and most of them are compliant with their medication. They're stable. You wouldn't know that they have an emotional disability. It just didn't make sense, because we're not doing the Industrial Revolution anymore. What do most people do when they're at home? Not working, screens and phones. But that's what so many people do at work. So it just didn't add up to me. And I started looking into it, and it grabbed me since then. And I wanted to find out why people with disabilities, and we've enlarged it since then, are really out of a job. And I wanted to prove that they have ability, and that they're out of a job not because they lack ability, but because we lack understanding regarding what they know in order to bring that ability to bear. And that's how I started about 20 years ago, looking into it. And the research took me 5 years. And then I wanted to actually prove that people with severe disabilities, other people, marginalized people, can all reach regular productivity for regular wages if we provide them what they need. And in order to build a showcase to prove it, I opened CY, which was at the beginning 100% managed and staffed by people with severe disabilities. But nowadays, it's about 2/3 of the employees and managers are severely disabled. Most of them had never worked before. And the rest of the company are other employment underdogs, people who can't really find a place elsewhere. And we're a free market company, but that's what we consist of.
That is fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. We're here with Gil Winch. He is the author of the new book, Winning with Underdogs. And we're here to talk about creative hiring strategies, a particularly relevant topic during this great resignation situation here. We also want to say hi to some of our great friends tuning in from around the world. We've got a LinkedIn friend from Vancouver. Rita Marie is back from Ireland. We have Franny in Colorado. Ihuaku is here from Houston. Nancy's in Boston. Peter's in Edinburgh. Zalima's from Mexico. Jonathan's tuning in from Costa Rica. We have a LinkedIn friend from New York City. Prashant is in Mumbai. Lee is in South Carolina. And we have a LinkedIn friend from Krakow. And Michael is here from New Orleans. We love having all of you. And please type your questions for Gil Winch into the chat box. We're talking about creative hiring strategies and how we can tap the full potential of every employee in these times when it's actually really hard, frankly, to hire talented people. We need them. So we're going to figure out how to do it. Now, Gil, a question I have for you. This is, we always love some juicy red meat controversy here. Something that you mentioned in your book is that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is corporate America's biggest con job. What do you mean by that, and what is the antidote to that?
Well, to be truthful, diversity, equity, and inclusion is supposed to be a platform and a way to let everybody into the job market. Now, I'll just give you 2 examples of why what goes on with DE&I and the reports are just showing us the wrong way. Nearly 10% of adults in the US are ex-cons, and they are more than 5 times more unemployed than regular people, and they really, really need a job. I'm talking about ex-cons, people who already paid a price if they needed to or not, and now they just want a job, and we're not hiring them. And try to find one diversity report that actually mentions how many ex-cons work for the company. We're talking about 10% of the adults in the States. That's a huge group we're totally ignoring in our diversity reports. People with disabilities are 15% of every population. And show me the business that actually knows and manages how many people with disabilities they actually employ. Is it around 15%? Is it 10 or 12%? I don't think so. And so that's 10% of the population. This is 15% of the population. Let's talk about the equity part of it just for a second. The global gender wage parity is 34%, but in the States it's close to 20%. And one of the reasons would be that out of the largest companies in America, most of them haven't even bothered to do a gender parity audit in the past 5 years. But they will have conventions about the power of gender and the importance of gender. And that's quite a simple audit to do. You just press a few buttons and you'll get results. So there's an awful lot of lip service when it comes to diversity. It's better than it used to be, but we're still so far from where we need to be in order that our workplaces do represent the true color and build-up of our communities, which they currently do not at all.
Yeah, really good point. We're here with Gil Winch. We're talking about creative hiring strategies, and he's the author of the new book, Winning with Underdogs. And we also want to say hi. We have great friends tuning in and joining us from around the world. Hello to Jessica in Florida. Maria's in London. Alicia is back from Berkeley. Patricia is here from Stockton, California. Hey, Patricia. Rena's here from South Florida. Paolo is in Brazil. Phaedra is in Atlanta. Zeke is in South Texas. Welcome back, Zeke. Marcos is from Canada, and Adedoyan is back from Nigeria. So glad to have all of you. We love our worldwide audience. And we have some great questions coming in. Keep them coming. We're going to turn to them soon. But first, I had a question, Gil. I was curious about the reverse screening process that you've created. What do you mean by reverse screening, and how does this work?
Well, the minute we started, we found out that if we want to interview people and to see their real potential, we can't go about it in the traditional way. Because what happens in traditional screening, and it's amazing that it still goes on, because research shows that it's totally useless. It can only predict about 8% of success, 8% of success. It's like nothing. But the traditional screening procedures are all really all about anxiety management, because you don't know what's going to happen. You come in, it's very judgmental. It's very like interrogation sort of vibe. And people who have been out of a job, not only disabled people who have been out of a job for a while, naturally lose confidence when you haven't done something for a while. And they're actually very sensitive to anxiety. So any kind of screening procedure which elevates anxiety is not going to show you who you want to see. You'll see something else. You'll see a lot of anxiety, but you won't see the real person. Anxiety in screening is pretty much equivalent to rubbing mud on a camera lens it just gets in the way of what you want to see. And the reverse screening process is exactly the opposite. We did everything possible, and we keep on tweaking it when we come up with something new to totally eliminate anxiety from our procedures. So people know in advance, because it's written in our website, exactly what they're coming in for. They can come in with a friend, a dog, a parrot. They can ask to have a do-over. They get to grade us at the end of it how well we help them present themselves. It even starts out in the cafeteria when they have to fill in a love and passion form. So the first thing we talk to them about is their loves and their passions, because people are much more verbal when they talk about things that they love and they're familiar with. The interviewer is more like a hostess, shows them around, makes them coffee. The procedure itself is as an escape room, so we want them to have fun while they're visiting with us. So everything we could think of to make things more pleasant, without anxiety, to the minimum we can. And it doesn't matter if it's an entry-level job or for a higher level management job, we'll always go about the screening. So it'll be a nice, pleasant process if you join the company or not.
That sounds so refreshing. My goodness.
It's fun. It's even much more fun for the interviewers. They get to talk about themselves. They're open. They're smiley. They're hosts really more than interviewers, and it gets the job done so much better. And I've seen people who are intelligent, have a master's degree, not able to answer a simple question because they're so flooded with anxiety. And so many people say, I would hire this and this group of people, but I can't find any good ones. And I say, yeah, you have, but you can't see them. You got to get the mud off the lens.
I think that's a really good point, and quite relevant. I was at the doctor's office yesterday and they had to take my blood pressure twice because the first time apparently I got nervous, so it was way too high. And then they took it again a second time and I was a little more calm, and it was much more normal. So yeah, I think in different ways we all experience variations of that with new environments, and they're grabbing my forearm. So I love that. That's great. And I see a great comment came in here. Good for you, Ilma, making use of our conversation here on LinkedIn. I am a senior healthcare recruiter at Signet Health. If anyone is looking for an assignment, reach out to me and I'll help you get a job. Well, that sounds incredibly useful. So since you're putting it out there, Ilma, thank you. Feel free to reach out to Ilma if you are an underdog looking for a great position. I'd love to see that. And a great question, Gil, came in from our friend Adnan in Turkey. And he wants to know, does diversity include giving equal opportunity to older generations as well? Is this something that you've worked on, or do you have thoughts about age discrimination or how to make sure that older workers are able to give their full potential at work?
We had, just a couple of weeks ago, we had a new employee join us. The first time they ever worked, but they were 70. They're 70, and they joined us then, because they have ability and they want to use it. And I see diversity in a very simple, straightforward manner. We have communities, we live in them. They have older people, younger people, people with, without disabilities, people who have been to prison, people who have not, people who are shy, people who look good, people who do not, people who look really bad. They all deserve a place amongst us in the workplace. That's what we evolved to do for millions of years. We have provided within a tribe, even before we were Homo sapiens. And a tribe can be big or small. You can have people you're friendly with, people you fight with, but you're always needed, you're always cared for, and you always have a place in this tribe. And I believe that everyone should have a place in the workforce. The more people have a place in the workforce, the stronger the economy. So I don't care what the age of the person is. I just care about their ability and their motivation to work. And the rest is totally irrelevant to me unless they're too young and there are laws against it. But other than that, I think everybody should enjoy a chance. It doesn't matter, age, looks, color, beliefs, gender, religion. It's all irrelevant. We're all people.
That's fantastic. We are here with Gil Winch. You can learn more about him and his work at gilwinch.com. He's the author of the new book, Winning with Underdogs. And this is Dorie Clark. This is your weekly Newsweek interview show, Better. We're here every Thursday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. 5 p.m. in London. We love having all of you here. And if you're enjoying the conversation, hit the like and share button so that your friends can benefit from this conversation with Gil as well. And we want to say hi to some of our great friends who are joining us from everywhere across the world. We love having all of you. Lelaine is here from California. Eugenia is here from Costa Rica. Julie's in Raleigh. Javed is from Pakistan. We've got Courtney from the Philippines. Paulo is in Brazil. Ahmed is in Egypt. Francinaldo is in Brazil. Andrew's in Florida. Aaron is in Las Vegas. And Franciscus is in Poland. And welcome to Christine from Rochester and Sushma in India. Thank you for being here. And a great question, Gil, came in from our friend Prashant. And he is curious about, he's talking about build versus buy. So I guess the framing he's using is training someone up from inside a company or recruiting somebody from outside. And he says, he thinks that oftentimes we're more willing to take risks if you're bringing in someone from outside as compared to raising somebody up and training them within the organization. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. And also in general, I know that you've actually pointed to some of the deficiencies in the training process for new employees in a typical corporate environment. Can you talk about that and what you feel that people should be doing differently?
If I remember it after I answer the first one, but yeah, I'll do my best here.
Thank
First of all,
you.
It's a great question, and I'm really all about training and growing people from within, because I've discovered every time pretty much that if you give people a chance and you let them grow and prove themselves and grow into a position, the amount of loyalty they will have to you, to the company, to the people that gave them a chance is so much bigger than someone you just paid to come and work for you, because the minute they get, look what's happening in the tech industry. You can't pay enough anymore. You can't find enough people. You can't pay them enough. It's getting totally ludicrous, the amount of money being offered to people who are just out of college, don't really know life experience at all, just because they can't find people. And part of the reason I wrote Winning with Underdogs is that there's so much talent around us that we're not looking at. I read a while back that Europe has problems because there are not enough truck drivers to move stuff around. And millions of refugees dying for a job. I'm sure we could find some truck drivers there. And I'm sure we could find some really good high-tech people amongst the disabled and ex-cons that we keep out of work. So I am really pro giving people a chance and helping them grow into the position, and not buying it from the outside, because you get less loyalty, and the more you pay, the easier it is for the talent just to move over to where they get paid more eventually. So I'm totally for growing from the inside, and you can also grow them the way you want and according to your own culture. The thing happening with training, I managed to remember the second question. The thing happening with, it's a good day for me. The thing happening with the training is that training is nowadays pretty much run according to the convenience of the trainers and the company, not according to the convenience of the trainees. And I'll try and give you a few examples. If a course takes, whatever course, if a course takes a month, the idea that you will find 20 people so identical that you can put them in the class at the same day and they will all achieve the same standard you want after 30 days is science fiction. Really, that just doesn't happen. Some will be bored, some will be undertrained, and it's just because it's convenient for the trainers to know when things end so they can start again, but it's totally irrelevant for the trainees. Companies will invest an awful lot of money on training facilities, so the chairs will be comfortable and the blackboard will be this and that will be that. They will put nearly no thought into the emotional needs of the trainees. And one of the emotional needs of the trainees is to get confident at what the job you're about to do. So a very important metric in training, building and designing training, is building and designing trainees' confidence as training goes along. That means you need a few throwaway exercises which they can do. You need to show them how they improved, keep earlier things so you can show them how they improved. You need to actually put a lot of thought in how you make people not only a professional in what they can do, but also in how they feel. Because and you should also put a lot of thought in making it enjoyable, because we learn so much better when something is enjoyable, and we also get much more connected to the job itself. Nowadays, I've heard of so many companies start training with 15 people and end it with 3 or 4 or 5. We lost them along the way because lots of stuff we talked about was irrelevant. I'll just give you one example. There's so many training materials where the first hour is the build-up organizational chart of the company. I don't know the company. I don't even know the guy standing in front of me. I couldn't care what the organizational chart of the company is. I just want to know a bit about my job and the small department I'm going to be in. Talk to me about that in a couple of months. That'll be fine. So there's all sorts of irrelevant stuff there, and training does need to be looked at a bit differently.
Yeah, excellent points here. We're here with Gil Winch. He's the author of Winning with Underdogs. I'm Dorie Clark, and this is our Newsweek weekly interview show, Better. We want to say hi to our amazing viewers tuning in from everywhere. Lauren is coming in from Miami. We've got Jerome from Switzerland. Claudia is in Lake Tahoe. Elisabetta is in Brazil. Matteo is in Italy. Helen's in Scotland. And Lynn is from Washington State. And Valeria is in Argentina. We're really glad to have all of you. If you're enjoying this conversation, you can learn more about Gil Winch, the author of Winning with Underdogs, at gilwinch.com, and you can make sure you never miss one of our weekly interview shows by going to dorieclark.com. You can sign up, get a free self-assessment, and you will get reminders about our show as well as other cool emails. So today we're talking about creative hiring strategies, and a really good question came in from Alicia from Berkeley, and she is curious, Gil, and whoa, it's a big question, so I'm just gonna read it to us here so it doesn't eat your face, but it's a great question. And she says it requires highly skilled people, often clinicians, to create psychological safety and thoughtful accommodations for disabled people and people with neurodivergence due to trauma. How do you propose training management to cultivate the skills required to provide this? She's curious, can a regular manager actually do this appropriately? What are your thoughts, Gil?
Well, that's a great question. And there is one word I believe is the most important word in management. This word will make people follow you. They'll be engaged with you. They'll give you everything they have to give. The funny thing about this word is that you will not find one research paper, as far as I could look, even mentioning it. And that word is caring. Caring is not a managerial word. However, it is the most important word in management. We all want to feel cared for as individuals, as we were until the Industrial Revolution, where we worked within our families. We were cared for as individuals in the fields, in the family shop. But now we go and work with other people who don't know us. There is no caring there. And that's why 70% of adults working suffer emotionally at their jobs, because it's cold, it's cutthroat, there's no community feeling, and there's no caring. Lots of our managers have disabilities themselves. We grew them, just like I said in the previous question. So how do you train people who don't have much managerial background and have a lot of insecurities? How do you train them to lead? And you do it by helping them and building circumstances so they can care for the people they manage as individuals. And if you do that, and if they can really care, you don't have to love them. Not necessarily all of them will be lovable, but you have to care for them as individuals. You have to know what's going on in their life. You have to be able to relate to it. You have to know what's important to them. Every meeting will start with personal stuff, and it is personal. And anybody who says it's not personal, it's business, it's always personal. So I really think that you can take any team you want, and part of our playbook, how we managed to create a company with hundreds of people, different religions, which is a warm and caring company. You can't miss it the minute you come in. You create that by teaching and modeling from the top, caring about the people under you, real caring.
Fantastic. We're here with Gil Winch. He's the author of Winning with Underdogs. We want to say hi to Doreen, who's joining us from Ohio. We've got a LinkedIn friend from Montreal. Andrew's in Singapore. Kathy's in New York City. Kokila's in Sri Lanka. Masood's in Karachi. Ilma is in Virginia. And Patricia is in Italy. We are so glad to have all of you. And Gil, something that I'm curious about, what are the hidden skills that are most typically overlooked in the interview process? Are there particular things? I mean, we know everybody brings something, of course, but are there commonalities in terms of hidden skills that just often don't emerge to the surface right away?
I'll answer it a bit differently. There's one seriously important thing in screening that usually is totally overlooked and not talked about or even looked at in any kind of way during the screening process, but I think it's the most important thing. And because I think the most important thing about screening is not who's sitting in front of you now, but who they can become. What can they grow into? In other words, I don't really care that much about their current abilities. I really want to know about their ability to grow, to learn. So a lot of the screening brings them to a failure point quickly, so we can start helping them overcome the failure point, and we can see what kind of learning modalities helps people. Who gives up, and the minute they have a setback that I can't do it, and who wants to keep on learning and keep on fighting. And we have so many wonderfully talented people who started out slow, but their level of progression never stopped, and they keep on getting better and better and better. And there were people who we didn't accept who would have started out much stronger than they are, but they would have overtaken them, and they have by now. So I really think looking at people's potential to grow, to learn, is a very, very important thing. And I also think looking at people's potential to join an existing, if it's a good one, culture is also something very, very important, which is usually neglected. Now, I haven't met that many places with a great culture, but when you do, I would really take that into consideration, because it's a very, very important thing.
Yes, really good points. Gil Winch is here. He's the author of the book, Winning with Underdogs. This is Newsweek's weekly interview show, Better, and I'm Dorie Clark. And we have time, Gil, for perhaps one more question. And a great one came in from Andrew. And he wants to know, is it possible to evaluate a values fit within just a few interviews, especially in situations where the person hiring you might be biased, for instance, if you're an ex-con or have, something that might trigger them to be a little bit skeptical. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, to my mind, being biased is because someone belongs to a certain group, you are assuming that they have a certain way of doing things or behaving, or a certain value set. And that's bias, actually. I think that if you're interviewing someone, regardless of the group they come from, there will always be people in that group who are great for you. And your only job is to see if that specific ex-con or ex-felon or disabled person or whatever is one of those people who can fit your needs. And that's the way you should look at it. And the minute you say, yeah, he's an ex-con, so I don't know what to do about the whole trust issue, and I think so many people do untrustworthy things, and they've never been to prison, so that doesn't really help you out over there. I think the whole diversity thing, the whole anti-bias thing, is to look at the person sitting in front of you and trying to see who they are as a person, regardless of what group they hail from or what their background has been. Look at what they can do, or can they do for you? Can they grow with you? And are they a good fit for how you would like your company to be, or your department, or whatever it is that's there. And just remind yourself, there'll be a lot of people from that certain population that will be a great fit. You just have to see if this one is one of them.
Excellent advice. This is Dorie Clark with Newsweek's Better weekly interview show. And our guest this week has been Gil Winch. You should all get his awesome new book. It's called Winning with Underdogs, and it can help you figure out how to tap the best talent in a tight talent market that we're in now. So Gil Winch, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really had a great time. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll see you all next week.